and welcome to episode 6 of My Life Lesson. Today we have a very successful model, from the billboards to the magazines, the runways. This guy has literally done it all. He is now a producer, director, entrepreneur, super talented, Rodney Charles. But before we get to Rodney, I just want to share this super funny story, not connected to him at all. This happened years ago, but I just think it's quite funny. I was on the Hollywood Walk of Fame with my family, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, listen man, I love your look, and I'm a producer and we can do something." And I'm thinking, oh, I'm being discovered on, like Pretty Woman on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And he's like, yeah, give me a call, here's my card, we can do something, I'm a producer. And I'm like, I'm with my family. And he's like, yeah, well, just call me. The only problem with that is the guy was dressed as SpongeBob. I'm like, dude, you're in your SpongeBob outfit. Even if he was a legit producer, you're doing your part-time job, My brother got the whole thing on video. Hysterical. So there's some not so real producers out there, but Rodney's doing fantastic things. You should definitely look him up. Here's his story.
I left London behind and moved to Los Angeles because I was raised in a household where it was made really clear. My parents are actually immigrants to the UK. I'm first generation British. And whilst formal education was really stressed at home, the other education was through travel. Both my parents had traveled internationally and as such had learnt so much more than they could from any book, real world education. So I was always raised with that understanding. The trip to LA really was something that was a necessity. I had gotten to a point in my personal development as a child in the UK who was born with certain artistic inclinations, and that wasn't really being entertained back at home, not in the way that I needed it to be. So whilst there were many things that I could have been and opportunities that were made available to me in Britain, being the artist that I wanted to be was not made available to me. So I escaped as soon as I could. The things that I'm proudest of are twofold, actually. It's not just one thing. I would say I'm proudest of the fact that I have come to the understanding of having a passion, not just for what I do as an artist, but actually what it can do in service of others. And on a very sort of basic level, I guess it was really special for me having my first feature, which I wrote, directed and produced, premiere in London at the BFI and on the South Bank. That's just, we also got invited, I got invited to screen at City Hall at the Mayor's request. And so that was a lovely, sort of worldly accolade. I would say that the biggest obstacle that I've had in life so far, it was my being homeless, and I had to live on the streets for a while, and that was really tough. I ended up being homeless in 3 different countries, believe it or not, because you escape one thinking it might be better somewhere else. So I was homeless in Paris for a while. I ended up writing a screenplay about that experience, so that's yet to be released. And then I was homeless in Italy for a while, and I was rescued by a chap who's now my current roommate. And then I was homeless in New York for a bit, and New York was by far the toughest. So I got out of my situation of homelessness, depression, all of those things that are intertwined by basically realizing that I couldn't stay in that space, which was a very sort of polite, modest, British way of being. I was now in New York at the time. And when people came up to me and said, "Oh, are you the guy who made that film?" or "Are you the guy who's on that billboard?" I'd sort of say like, "Yeah, I do a bit of that." And very modest in a very humble sort of British way. Unfortunately, it doesn't translate in this environment. You have to say, "Yes, that's me. That's what I do. And I'm really good at it." And that's not a place of ego. That's actually a place of truth. I am really good at what I do. I'm a great writer, filmmaker, etc. Certainly within the confines, I'm a really good writer, filmmaker, certainly within the boundaries of what I do, the stories I wish to tell. So once one claims that, you then start to see openings and you get received in a very different way. So now it's really shifted. So I was able to escape that old paradigm of thinking, which is humility, shyness, and ultimately embarrassment and not feeling worthy. That's really what was behind it, to a point of, I actually know how to do this. I'm doing it in service of a bigger plan, which is to be able to tell stories that empower people and to make the world a better place. And I shouldn't be embarrassed about that. even if some people might think it's, it sounds a little, corny or whatever, it's actually my truth. And so once you stand behind that, things change for the better. What I would say to anyone in Ealing, Southall, any place in London who are thinking of relocating to maybe Los Angeles like I did, New York, or anywhere in the world, if there is a calling within you to travel, to see the world, or to escape, whatever it might be, listen to that voice, because invariably you will not regret it. It's a beautiful thing to see the world in any case, and any opportunity to travel. You can always go backward. Generally, the funny thing about it is we choose not to. Once you've seen a little bit more, you choose to keep going. And so my final thought is just be good to yourself, be good to others, and just enjoy your life. We may have several of them, that's the argument, but you know what? Why not start by enjoying this one?
Rodney, thank you so much. That was amazing. You really are an inspiration. You make me want to work harder. Thank you. Before we go real quick, I just want to share this with you. We had Ben a couple of weeks ago, the TV editor, share bits of his story, and he got fantastic responses on Facebook and messages were sent to him, and I wanted to share tiny snippets of a couple of them. One of them said, "I think your video was the wake-up call I've been waiting for. I definitely want a career that's fulfilling and that I can be proud of." Another one said, "You are so inspirational and this is totally what I needed right now." Another one said, "I cried after I watched your video. It was so good and so honest." And one more said, "I'm going to go for it now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I've always dreamed of doing. This is the push I needed." I mean, just amazing. This is exactly why I wanted to do this series. If one person out there goes, "You know what?" shines a light on themselves and go, "Am I really doing all I can do? Am I really pursuing the thing that I've always said I would do? Or am I just sitting back and just watching life pass me by?" If one person feels that and is inspired by any of these artists that we've been showcasing, including a little bit of myself, then fantastic. That is what I wanted. So we've got some great people coming up, so keep watching. Hit subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time.